Times, at least in my case, you may not recognize how amazing your parents are, or how good they are, or how decent they are, or how whatever word you want to use is until they pass on. And that's something that's happened with me, especially with my dad. With my mom and I were like one. She taught me so much, and I had similar interests. She had similar interests, and my dad and I were just very different. You know, he was a CPA, an accountant, and very black and white, you know, very pros and cons list whenever you make a decision. It's all those things I learned as a little kid, and I still use quite a few of them today. But there's something that my dad had that was his superpower, and it's the opposite of my personality, which is why I'm trying so hard to carry his legend forward, to carry his legacy forward, and to improve my own ability in this world to help people to heal. And that thing that he had was incredible emotional control, amazing emotional regulation, outrageously measured in his responses and and he loved life. He was very, very into life. I mean, him and my mom got an RV and they traveled all over the place. You know, I mean, he was not just this guy that sat in the corner behind a desk with a bunch of figures and numbers and he was happy with that. No, he was extremely creative. He was one of the most amazing woodworkers I've ever seen. He would do woodworking where a clock made out of wood would take him 200 hours, 250 hours. He had the patience of a saint. He was very creative, you know, even as an accountant. It's kind of surprising when you have an accountant that is that's super creative. But the thing that I talk to him about the most, that I need to be more like him, is that measured approach. I'm extremely emotional. I'm outrageously sensitive. The things that would bring tears to my eyes would never touch my dad to bring tears to his eyes. As a matter of fact, I don't ever really remember him crying, except for the one time after my mom died when he was talking to me and we both had tears about it. That's about the only time in 65 years. I'm 68 now. I think he died 3 years ago. It's the only time I remember seeing him cry. So I'm not saying that that's a good thing. That's just my dad. I'm the opposite. I cry all the time, and I'm happy with my personality type. But to sit down and to look at your mom and dad and to look at those traits that are extremely powerful that maybe you could learn from, maybe that's why I'm giving this message today. Even if you grew up in a really difficult household, there probably still is one or two things that you could look back on. You know, I remember working with a woman who grew up with a schizophrenic mom, which was the craziest thing in the world for her. She blamed her mom in her 40s for everything that had gone wrong. And then one day when we were doing work, I said, hey, is there just any chance there was some one benefit that your mom gave you? And she came back the next week shaking her head. She said, oh my God, David, I became extremely independent at 10. I couldn't rely on her for my food. I couldn't rely on her to get my clothes ready. So I became an entrepreneur at 10. To get out of the house, I started selling little things. And so, yeah, you know, I guess there is something positive from my mom's schizophrenia. So, you know, and that's an extreme, right? But we look at that, and then maybe you'll look back and say there's nothing positive from my mom or dad, or I never knew my dad, never knew my mom. So, and for that, I'm sorry. And for everyone else that is in this world today, let's continue to grow. And if there's something that your parents had that you would like to be more of, just like me with my dad and his emotional regulation, his measured response to life. I remember driving out my driveway and ripping a car door off because I wasn't paying attention to where I was going at 13. I walked into the house expecting him to rip my head off, and he looked at me. He was not happy at all. He said, please never do that again, and turned around and walked away. So, now that's a guy with a measured response. If I can help you at all with your emotional responses, with maybe anger or irritability, or maybe you just don't have a control when you say things that hurt people, reach out to me at talkdavid.com. 45 years as a counselor, #1 best-selling author, and more. Everything is at talkdavid.com. Let's work together. Have a beautiful day.